On May 24, 1981, the nude body of Nathaniel Cater was found in the Chattahoochee River. He had been missing for 4 days and was last seen with Wayne Williams. What happened to him before his body entered the water remains unclear. On July 28, 1979, 2 young boys were found in a wooded area near Atlanta. Edward Teddy Smith, 14, and Alfred Q. Evans, 13, had disappeared 4 days apart earlier that month. Their bodies were discovered less than a week after their disappearances. The timeline of events surrounding their deaths remains one of the earliest documented moments in what would become known as the Atlanta child murders. Both boys were found in the same location, though no other details about the scene or the circumstances of their deaths have been officially released. Their disappearance and subsequent discovery marked the beginning of a pattern that would continue for years. Investigators later linked several of the early victims to Wayne Williams, who was arrested more than 3 years after these murders. The case remains open, with many questions still unanswered. On September 4, 1979, Milton Harvey disappeared while on an errand to the bank for his mother. He was riding a bike that was found a week later in a remote area of Atlanta. His body was not recovered until November of that year. The disappearance and death of Milton Harvey became part of a larger pattern of unsolved murders that would come to be known as the Atlanta child murders. For nearly 2 decades, the case remained open, with no arrests made for the killings of children like Milton Harvey. In 2019, the Atlanta police reopened the cases in hopes that new technology could help solve some of the remaining mysteries. Despite these efforts, many of the victims, including Milton Harvey, have not been brought to justice. The search for answers continues. On October 21, 1979, 9-year-old Yusuf Bell went to Reese Grocery on McDaniel Street to buy Bruton snuff for his neighbor Eula Birdsong. A witness later said she saw him near the intersection of McDaniel and Fulton getting into a blue car before he disappeared. Nearly a month later, on November 8, his body was found in the abandoned E. Johnson Elementary School by a janitor who was searching for a place to urinate. Yusuf was still wearing the brown cut-off shorts he had been seen in, though they had a piece of masking tape stuck to them. He had been hit over the head twice and died from strangulation. Police did not immediately link his disappearance to the previous killings. On March 4, 1980, 12-year-old Angel Lanier disappeared after leaving her house around 4 p.m. wearing a denim outfit. She was last seen at a friend's house watching the sitcom Sanford and Son before she went missing. Her body was found 6 days later in a wooded vacant lot along Campbellton Road, still wearing the same clothes she had been wearing when she left home. A pair of white underwear that did not belong to her was stuffed in her mouth, and her hands were bound with an electrical cord. The cause of death was determined to be strangulation. Between July 1979 and May 1981, a series of murders occurred in Atlanta, Georgia. Over the course of 2 years, at least 28 African American children, adolescents, and adults were killed. The victims ranged in age from as young as 9 to as old as 27. Some were found near their homes, others in remote areas or along riverbanks. Investigators worked tirelessly for years to connect the cases, but the pattern remained elusive. In 1981, a police surveillance team heard a loud splash near the James Jackson Parkway Bridge and stopped Wayne Williams's car after it crossed the bridge. Williams would later become a suspect in several of the murders. In March 2019, the Atlanta police reopened the cases in hopes that new technology could lead to answers about the murders that were never resolved. While Wayne Williams was convicted of 2 adult murders and sentenced to 2 consecutive life terms, the specific number of murders definitively attributed to him remains unclear. To this day, many questions remain unanswered, including what specific evidence was examined during the reopening of the case in 2019, and whether any additional victims have been identified. Williams maintains his innocence in connection with the child murders. In 1981, forensic analysis of evidence from the body of Jimmy Ray Payne provided a crucial lead in the Atlanta child murders investigation. Hairs and fibers found on Payne's body matched those recovered from Wayne Williams's home, car, and dog. This connection raised serious questions about Williams's possible involvement, though no direct link between him and Payne had been established at the time. The discovery added weight to the theory that Williams was involved in multiple murders across Atlanta. Investigators continued to analyze other evidence from the case, hoping for more definitive connections. Despite these findings, Wayne Williams maintained his innocence throughout the proceedings. It's important to note that while this evidence pointed towards Williams, it wasn't conclusive proof of his guilt. The investigation into the Atlanta child murders remained ongoing, with many questions still unanswered. On May 22, 1981, a police surveillance team near the James Jackson Parkway Bridge heard a sudden splash as Wayne Williams's car crossed the bridge. When stopped and questioned, he claimed he was on his way to check an address in a neighboring town ahead of an audition with a young singer named Cheryl Johnson. However, both the phone number he provided and the name Cheryl Johnson were later determined to be fictitious. This moment marked a turning point in the investigation, as the bridge had long been a site where bodies had been discovered. Just 2 days later, on May 24th, the body of Nathaniel Cater was found in the river. He had been missing for 4 days and was last seen with Williams. Police suspected that the splash heard earlier had been the sound of Cater's body hitting the water. This led to Williams's arrest. Wayne Williams was convicted of 2 adult murders, though police have attributed a number of the child murders to him. He has never been charged with those crimes and maintains his innocence. In May 1981, Wayne Bertram Williams was arrested and tried for the murders of 2 adult men. He was convicted on these charges and sentenced to 2 consecutive life terms. While police have attributed a number of the child murders to Williams, he has never been charged in any of those cases. Williams maintains his innocence, and it remains unclear exactly how many murders are attributed to him. The case continues to be investigated by Atlanta police. The reopening of the investigation in 2019, prompted by Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms, offered a glimmer of hope for closure. New DNA testing technologies were applied to evidence collected from the crime scenes. Despite these efforts, as of November 2025, no conclusive results have been publicly released. The Atlanta child murders remain a haunting reminder of the vulnerability of children and the enduring search for justice. As of November 2025, no conclusions have been reached from the reopened investigation into the unresolved Atlanta child murders. While Wayne Williams was convicted of 2 adult murders linked to the case in 1981, he has never been charged in any of the child killings. Williams maintains his innocence, though police have attributed a number of those murders to him. In March 2019, Atlanta police, under the order of Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms, reopened the cases, hoping new technology would lead to a conviction for the unresolved murders. Despite efforts to re-examine evidence and test DNA collected in 2019, investigators have yet to release any findings publicly. The case remains open, with many questions still unanswered. The Atlanta child murders cast a long shadow over the city. Nearly 5 decades have passed since the first victims disappeared, Yet the pain and uncertainty linger for families and the community. The hope that new technology might finally bring closure to this tragic chapter in Atlanta's history remains alive. In March 2019, Atlanta police reopened the cases in hopes that new technology could finally bring justice to the unresolved murders. Under the order of Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms, investigators turned to advanced forensic tools and modern DNA analysis in search of answers. For nearly 4 decades, the identities of many victims remained unknown, and no convictions had been secured for the crimes committed between 1979 and 1981. The reopening marked a new effort to re-examine evidence that had long gone untested. Investigators worked with private labs specializing in deteriorated DNA, hoping breakthroughs could be made. As of November 2025, no results have been made public, leaving the case still open. The Atlanta child murders left a deep and lasting impact on the city of Atlanta and its residents, particularly within the African American community. Over a 2-year period, at least 28 African American children, adolescents, and adults were killed, leaving scars that remain today. The murders sparked fear and uncertainty within the community, especially among families who lived in neighborhoods where victims had disappeared. In March 2019, the Atlanta police, under the order of Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms, reopened the cases hoping that new technology could finally bring justice to those who remained unidentified. As of November 2025, no results have been made public from this renewed investigation. While Wayne Williams was convicted of 2 adult murders, police attributed a number of the child murders to him, though he has not been charged in any of those cases, and maintains his innocence. The legacy of these murders continues to shape conversations about race and justice in Atlanta. Nearly 5 decades after the Atlanta child murders gripped the city in fear, investigators are still searching for answers. In March 2019, Atlanta police reopened the cases under Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms' order to utilize modern forensic technology and re-examine existing evidence. The hope was that these advancements, such as improved DNA analysis techniques and fiber examination, could provide new leads in a case that had remained unsolved for decades. While authorities have not publicly revealed any specific findings from this renewed investigation, the use of advanced forensic tools suggests a continued effort to bring justice to the victims and their families. As of November 2025, no results from the reopening have been made public. The Atlanta child murders case remains a complex and haunting reminder of the city's past. In March 2019, Atlanta police reopened the cases in hopes that new technology could finally bring justice to the unresolved murders. Despite this effort, specific evidence or leads examined during the reopening remain unclear. Questions about whether additional victims have been identified beyond those confirmed by police and Wayne Williams continue to linger. While police have attributed a number of the child murders to Williams, he has not been charged in any of those cases, and maintains his innocence. The exact number of murders attributed to Wayne Williams remains a subject of debate and uncertainty. As of November 2025, no results have been made public from the reopened investigation. Families of the victims still seek answers, and many questions about the full scope of the murders remain unanswered. Wayne Williams was arrested, tried, and convicted of 2 adult murders. He was sentenced to 2 consecutive life terms. Although police have attributed a number of the child murders to Williams, he has not been charged in any of those cases. Williams maintains his innocence. His trial brought closure to some families, but left many questions unanswered. Over the years, Williams has consistently denied involvement in the killings of children. Despite the conviction for 2 adult murders, the case remains unresolved for the victims who were never identified or brought to justice. The absence of charges in the child murders continues to be a point of contention and debate among those seeking answers. In March 2019, the Atlanta police reopened the cases of the Atlanta child murders in hopes that new technology could finally bring justice to the unresolved murders. As of November 2025, no results from this effort have been made public. Investigators are re-examining old evidence with modern forensic techniques, hoping to uncover new leads. The specific nature of these leads and findings remain unknown. Families of the victims continue to seek answers, and many questions about the full scope of the murders remain unanswered. It is possible that additional victims could be identified as part of this ongoing investigation, but no such discoveries have been made public. While Wayne Williams was convicted of 2 adult murders in 1982, the Atlanta child murders investigation remains open. Police have linked him to multiple child murders, but definitive proof has never been established. This ambiguity stems from a lack of concrete evidence directly connecting Williams to each case. As of November 2025, no results from the reopening of the investigation in March 2019, spurred by advancements in forensic technology, have been made public. The case continues without resolution, leaving many details unconfirmed and unresolved. Investigators still search for answers, relying on new technologies to uncover evidence that may finally bring closure nearly 2 decades after the last murder officially linked to Williams. Nearly 5 decades after the Atlanta child murders gripped the city in fear, families of the victims still seek answers. In March 2019, hoping new forensic techniques could finally bring justice, the Atlanta Police Department, under the order of Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms, reopened the cases. As of November 2025, no results from this effort have been made public. Investigators continue to search for additional victims and evidence that may help solve the remaining cases. The reopening aimed to re-examine old evidence with modern technology. This includes DNA samples collected in 2019 which are now being analyzed. It's unclear if any matches have been found or what specific leads investigators are pursuing. Some dispute the exact number of murders attributed to Wayne Williams, who was convicted for 2 adult murders, and is considered a suspect in many of the child murders. However, he maintains his innocence. The Atlanta child murders remain an unresolved tragedy, with families still waiting for closure after nearly half a century. Subscribe if you want the next case broken down the same way.